morning. My name is Teryn Anderson, and I have been with the Department of Human Resources for 15 years and definitely found my passion in fostering hope. And we're looking forward to giving you some new information this morning and answering any questions that you may have regarding our Fostering Hope program.
And I am Tonya Daniel. I have been with this state for 16 years, worked in several programs, and I also am excited about giving you some information that we can take back into our counties and our foster youth that we're working with to ensure that they're receiving the educational assistance that is available for them to continue their education. The educational assistance that we do have in the state of Alabama is two programs. We have the Fostering Hope program, which is a state-funded program, and it pays all tuition and fees for our youth that are eligible for this program. We also have an ETV program, which is a federally funded program to provide up to $5,000 annually. And these programs are in place because what we want is for our foster youth to attend college and, if at all possible, graduate debt-free with a bachelor's or associate's degree.
So what is the Fostering Hope program? Fostering Hope is a post-secondary education for our foster youth that are graduating from foster care, graduating from high school in foster care, obtaining their GED or adopted from Alabama foster care, or part of the kinship guardianship program after the age of 14. This was legislation that was passed in May of 2014. It was initially implemented during the 2016-2017 academic year. The eligible students for these programs can attend any of the public institutions, community, technical colleges, four-year universities, colleges and universities, state-funded career and technical training programs, and those programs that lead to some type of certification or employment. Private colleges and private universities are not a part of the Fostering Hope program.
Who is eligible for our Fostering Hope Scholarship? To be eligible, the youth must have graduated high school or obtained their GED while in foster care, or any youth that was 14 years of age and was adopted or entered into a kinship guardianship situation. Fostering Hope covers all tuition and fees, and that is handled through state DHR. We'll communicate that as well. Students must maintain a GPA of 2.0, and that is the guidelines. However, we can be kind of flexible depending on the situation. It is a case by case. So we don't like to say that you can make below a 2.0 and continue to receive that funding. They must attend all public colleges or institutions in the state of Alabama. So with Fostering Hope, they have to go to school in Alabama. It covers dual enrollment in high school. So we have some students that are currently interested in dual enrollment or in the dual enrollment. We need to look into this because Fostering Hope is available for our foster youth that are in dual enrollment in their current high school situations. Youth are eligible to receive this Fostering Hope Scholarship through the age of 26, or there is an academic limit, 144 hours towards a bachelor's degree and up to 72 hours towards their associates.
And we also want to point out on this particular slide that this is available for some of our kids that can show a study abroad program that is directly connected to their major in college. An additional requirement for our youth is 100 annual volunteer hours. This is to develop our young people's sense of accomplishment, pride. We want them to give back to their community, teach them skills and attributes that are necessary to work in the workplace. We also want them to be able to appreciate the opportunity that is being provided to them. And this is just a way for us to be able to require those hours of them. This begins for students that are beginning their second year of eligibility. It can be broken down in a variety of different ways. They can volunteer 50 hours per semester or 100 hours per calendar year, or they are able to also, in lieu of the volunteer hours, work at minimum 5 hours per week. A lot of our students are eligible for work study on campus, and that is determined through the FAFSA. So we want to make sure that our students are clicking that they desire to be considered for work study, because that is an easy way for them to get their volunteer hours. This is something that is non-negotiable. Even if the child has a 4.0 GPA, if they fail to obtain that 100 annual volunteer hours or work hours, they will be suspended from the program. So we want to make sure that we are communicating to them that this requirement is in place. A lot of our students will work over the summertime and they're able to obtain those hours then. And we want to make sure that our kids are keeping record of their volunteer hours. We want to recommend that they kind of split it up to ensure that they get those hours within that year. And again, this must be recorded before a student is funding for the next academic year.
Okay, what is ETV? ETV is the Educational Training Voucher. That is a federally funded grant, and it can be used in conjunction with other grants and scholarships that are available. This began in 2002, and it provides up to $5,000 annual support for our foster youth. ETV funds can be combined, as I stated, can be combined with other grants. Eligible students may receive funding while attending in public or private, and that is the difference. They can get this at a private school, as the difference is in Foster and Hope is only for a public school. To be eligible, they must be 18 years of age while in foster care. They don't have to graduate while in foster care, but if they were in foster care on their 18th birthday, they are eligible for ETV. Youth who are at least 14 years of age and have left foster care and went into a kinship or guardianship or adoption situation, they can get ETV as well. They must maintain a GPA of 2.0. That is not negotiable because this is federally funded, and we have no control over that. So the same guidelines that they have to maintain their Pell Grant, they have to do that as well with ETV. And they may be eligible for ETV up to the age of 26 as well, with the cap out of 5 years. It does not have to be consecutive, but it is a 5-year stretch on that.
And to build upon the GPA 2.0 requirement, oftentimes when because this is a federally funded program, when our students are ineligible for federal Pell Grant due to their GPA falling below the 2.0 level, they're often ineligible for ETV as well. So if they get suspended from federal Pell Grant, they will also be cut off from ETV as well. This is just a list of some of the things that ETV can be used for. This is used in conjunction with the Fostering Hope Scholarship. So a youth can be entitled to both programs. They're not necessarily have to have one or the other. Again, just to point out the fact that if they are out of state, they are only eligible for ETV. But this could be used for balances due at school, of course, with housing, meal plans for books, household utilities, dependent childcare expenses. If they live off campus and they have an apartment, this can be used for those living expenses. Again, meal cards, disability services. And this is not an exhaustive list, but we want to make sure that you kind of have an idea what they're eligible for. I do want to point out as it relates to our youth that are still in foster care, because some of our youth are out of care or they've emancipated or been adopted. So if our youth are in foster care, ETV does not, their fiscal year begins in October of each academic year. So that initial semester, they may not have their funding in place in order to obtain their books. And so we can make exceptions, and there are required steps that need to be taken in order for this to be, for the county to be able to fund them, to assist them with their books. But that is something that the county can do in order to provide them assistance with their books. Something that cannot be used directly for is cell phone, personal loans, bank fees, computer games, dorms and apartment damages. We want to make sure that what they're using them for is kind of within the scope of the cost of living as it relates to education. And we want to make sure that they are using that so that they are not having a deficit throughout the year and having to take out those student loans in order to fund their education. Now, if a student takes out student loans throughout the year, ETV can be used to pay back that student loan. Again, our ultimate goal is for our kids to get out of school debt free. So we want to make sure that if they are obtaining those loans, that they recognize that that ETV can be used to pay those loans back. It is one application that opens up around July of each year. However, we are taking applications as of now. We're trying to make accommodations for when a student is applying for their FAFSA that they're able to go ahead and complete that application as well. That is approved through the state office, and we usually try to get those out as quickly as possible. Again, it is one application. There's two separate approvals that will be provided, and they will be provided through the contact information that they give on that application. Eligible students, again, who attend out of state and non-public schools in Alabama do not receive fostering help. We want to make sure that we stress
that. With DHR, we have a contract providing that funds our students. They're in direct, what they do is they send the money to the school. It does not come from me or Miss Anderson, but and that person is Myra Miller. Myra Miller is very important to our students because they are required to make contact with Myra once a month. They do have to schedule those meetings with her. Failure to do so can result in you not receiving funding. If she asks for transcripts or anything, they have to provide that information to her. So if they are not in compliance with her, they will not be funded for that academic semester until they do what is asked of them with her. And they also meet with me and Miss Anderson. But again, Miss Miller is the one that will make sure that the money is sent to whatever school or training program that they're in, which requires them to contact her.
And we work directly with them. We do the face-to-face contact with the kids to make sure that they have that academic success. But any questions or any concerns as it relates to the financial dynamic, Ms. Miller is the one through Foster Care to Success, which is a management agency. She's the one that manages the financial. If they get in school and they're having issues or their money is not there, we want to encourage you to try and contact me and Ms. Daniels first to ensure that that's not a general question that we're able to answer. But if it's connected directly to what has been sent, Ms. Miller will be the one to get in touch with, and her contact information is available on this slide. So Ms. Daniels and I are the fostering help mentors for the state of Alabama. Ms. Daniel covers Birmingham and the northern part of the state, and I cover Montgomery to the southern part of the state and a few of the schools throughout the state because every child seems to want to go to school in the north part of the state. So I cover the University of Alabama, Auburn University, Gadsden State Community College, and the University of Montevallo. But what is our job? Our job is to make contact with the recipients every semester, face-to-face with our recipients. It is very important that they know that they have a support system. It's also very important that we provide some type of support because the college process is very intimidating. And we want to make sure that we take that away as an excuse as to why our kids don't do so well. We provide partnership with the applications. We will come and assist the student with completing the FAFSA. If this is an area that is kind of foreign to a lot of our foster parents or even some of our workers, we can come and assist with completing that paperwork. We work with universities to make sure that they're definitely connected to the resources that are available to them. Also just helping the university to understand and advocate for our youth that our kids are different and they have special needs, not necessarily mental, but financial and social needs that a lot of the other kids that attend the universities and community colleges don't have. We monitor their progress in school to ensure that they are complying with the 2.0 requirement that is for fostering hope and ETV and the federal Pell Grant. We link our kids to any needed assistance. We participate with county staff just to make sure that their kids are successful and to ensure that their needs are being met. And a lot of times that is by participating through the ISPs. We want to make sure that our kids are very aware of the college process. I think a lot of our kids don't do as well in college because of the technicalities, that they don't understand the idea of drop and add, that they don't understand the idea of what are the requirements of the federal Pell Grant. And we have to make sure that the school understands that while a lot of the students are considered numbers, that our kids need to have that necessary, that extra information to ensure that they are successful.
Additional assistance that is available to help our youth plan and prepare for post-secondary education is having a career coach. A career coach is offered. We have one for each area of the state. We can log onto that website that is provided and just click on it. It will give you the name of the career coach, and that career coach can help the worker and that youth decide, what is in the best interest of that youth and what they should do and what path they should be on. So that is a very helpful resource when preparing for post-secondary education.
And career coaches are provided through the high school experience, and they are provided in connection with the high school counselors. We want to encourage our foster parents and our foster care workers to have our kids to connect with their counselors, because they're going to be the ones that will connect them directly to all the scholarships that are offered through the state and throughout the country, but also connect them through the career coaches that are able to provide a plethora of different services. A few of those are they assist the students with career exploration. We want to make sure that our kids' strengths are directly connected to their career paths. A lot of times, our kids sometimes have very unrealistic ideas to what they want to be when they go into college, which then results in them being in school 5 and 6 years. We want to make sure that they are connecting their strengths to what career choice they are. If a kid is good in math, then accounting may be something that they want to look into. We want to make sure that we're developing guidance for them through the technical programs in high school. Again, we're talking about dual enrollment. A lot of our kids can get out of school with a certification in welding or a certification as a CNA. And so this only, they could also get out of high school with with credit hours towards a college degree. So we want to make sure that they are taking advantage of that as well. And career coaches will help to link them to that. Career coaches also help with the admissions and the financial aid process. And that just kind of takes some of the pressure off of you all to provide that assistance for them as well as us. It provides them guidance in regards to career choices. It helps them, they will schedule and attend college campus tours and industry tours with our high school students. And it's very important that our kids have that experience. They can coordinate job shadowing opportunities so that our kids can understand whether this is actually an area that they want to go in, and they can do recruitment activities for technical programs. One thing that we want to make sure that we also allude to why the career coach is so important. A lot of our kids go into school undecided, or they go in with one career path and they may decide they want to change their career path after a semester or two. We want to make sure that they are making those choices ahead of time, because that will determine whether our kids actually complete school within a 4-year academic term versus completing school in 5 and 6 years, because the average college student completes school in 5 years. And this is one of those ways to prevent that from occurring.
There are other options and alternative choices that our foster youth may have, because remember, everyone is not the same and every youth won't go to college. Of course, we have the post-secondary education. You have the vocational training and education. Integrated employment, where they can go and shadow and follow someone, and more than likely do it as an internship and end up with a job there. Continuing adult education is very important. For those that may or may not, graduate while in care, but end up getting their GED, we need to help them work towards that as well. Community participation, that's volunteering. Volunteering can always lead to a job or some type of trade or training. Job Corps, they have a variety of programs that are available, from the medical field to cooking, welding, just different programs that may be available for that youth that might not be necessarily ready to attend college. Apprenticeships, those are available at most colleges. You can, just knowing someone can help you get an apprenticeship. AmeriCorps, the military and the National Guard, those are just a few of our choices that there's something out there for those that may not necessarily be ready to go into that college field, but they do have other options.
And 2 points that we want to make sure that we bring out on this slide as well is Job Corps is one of those areas where if you have one in your local area, a student does not have to stay on campus in order to participate in Job Corps. Job Corps allows them to stay into the program up until the age of 20. They can participate in that program up until the age of 26. So we want to make sure we point that out. Also, with the military and National Guard, our kids take the ASVAB within the 10th and the 11th grade year. The ASVAB is so important for our youth to participate in, because that gives them an idea of what areas that they are good at. A lot of times they'll take it and they'll think that it's directly connected to having to go into the military. But our department has DHR, the Alabama Department of Human Resources, has a partnership with the National Guard where our students can take the ASVAB without having to have that inquiry in regards to going into the military. We want our kids to have an idea of what areas that they are good at, because that's going to lead to better choices as it relates to their academic career. When they make the choice to go to college, we want to make sure that we are taking them to visit the college universities prior to the start of school. Prior to the start of their first semester in school. It is very important that our kids feel comfortable at the school that they're going to attend, that they get acclimated to the city in which their university or college is at. We also want to make sure that all of their questions in regards to what is the responsibility of the student as well as the responsibility of their caregiver. So we want to make sure that they're going to those college tours. Also, a lot of the high schools will allow them to have absent days, excused absent days from school in order to participate in a college tour. So we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of that. We want them to participate in orientation. A lot of times this is mandatory for colleges and universities, but community colleges offer their orientations as well. And again, this lays out the expectations of the foster youth, both academically as well as financially. Definitely cannot stress this enough. Get in contact with your DHR foster help mentor. We're involved with the foster youth even after they age out of care. We're involved with the foster youth. If they're receiving fostering help scholarship, we are involved with that foster youth, even if they're adopted. So we want to make sure that you are contacting us so that we can sit down and have those hard conversations with the foster youth to make sure that they're making the most appropriate decisions for them as to whether the college that they're attending or just being prepared and understanding the technicalities of college. We want to ensure that our kids are linked to to persons or host families in the community. If a child is coming from Mobile but they're attending school in the University of Alabama, we want to make sure that in cases of emergency that we are linking them to host families and community, that in case of an emergency that they will have somebody that can get to them immediately. We want them to continue to participate in local independent living meetings. These are offered by every county department. You can contact the local county department and just inquire about their IOP meetings, and our kids can attend those meetings with incentives attached if they are in foster care. Take them to a college sporting event. Help them to see what college is about, because that is going to be something that's going to be very important as they learn to balance their social and their academic lives on their own. Definitely check on them and check on them often. I know we check on our youth, our young kids, our young foster kids, but our older foster kids probably need us just as much as an infant or a toddler may need us, because they're navigating the area of life that is foreign to them. And while they oftentimes act as if they know everything, they really don't understand much of what the world has to offer. We want to make sure that we're checking on them, and we want to make sure that we are providing them with as much guidance as possible. Again, Miss Daniels and I, we see them once a semester at minimum, but we will see them as much as needed and get in contact with their foster parent or adopted parent, or even their foster care worker if we have any concerns. We want to make sure that you are talking to them in regards to their responsibility financially, in regards to their books, the money that they are receiving. Our community college youth are receiving a pretty good stipend as a result of being in school, if they're receiving both Fostering Hope and ETV and federal Pell Grant, because they're entitled to all three of the programs. Some of them are entitled to all three of the programs. And so we want to make sure that they have that financial budgeting under control, because, and that they're using it wisely so that they do not get out of school, and that they're not requesting student loans when it's not necessary. Consider ILP programs in Searle, Incept, and Camp Life. Again, that information is provided at the bottom of the screen. And Sorrel is a one-week program on the University of Alabama campus, and these are offered for our children that are in foster care. And they just work on providing our kids with confidence and leadership skills that will help them in their academic career. INCEPT is a 6-week program that's offered through the summer programs, through the summer on the University of Alabama campus, and that provide them, they allow them to do college tours. They allow them to do, they get a little side job so that they can earn a little money. They have a little bit of fun throughout this program, but it helps to instill in them writing skills and leadership skills that is going to be necessary in their post-educational services and their needs.
And right here, we want to talk about just preparing them in high school. And we've stepped it out like what they should be doing in the 9th and 10th grade. And most importantly, having them take the ASVAB, having them take the ACT, so that they're not waiting until the fall semester, that senior year, to get ready to take the ACT, because at that point, they don't have that option to retake that test. So we just want to make sure that this is just some guidelines that we kind of step down and just say, hey, if we start in the 9th and 10th grade preparing them, that by the time they get to their senior year, they're applying for college, they have taken that ACT more than once, so that they're able to see where they're at and where they're going to score. And that also helps when deciding what college that they're going to, because of course, if their GPA is low enough, I'm sorry, not GPA as well, but if their ACT score is low enough, it may not necessarily qualify them for college material classes. They may have to start in remedial courses. So we start them and prepare them in the beginning instead of waiting to the senior year or the last semester of their junior year, getting them ready for college. We'll be in a better position when sending our foster youth off to college.
And by their 12th grade year, we want them to kind of have narrowed down what colleges that they want to go to. We also want them to be meeting with their counselor regularly, because a lot of the scholarships that are available through the school's academic scholarship that the universities offer, the deadline for those applications are December 1st. So we want to make sure that our foster youth are deciding what college that they're going to, and so that the school can offer them that scholarship provide them with a scholarship offer by that deadline. Also, again, they may need to take the ACT to get their score up to a certain, and so by December 1st, they have to have had that ACT score turned into the school. So again, there are a lot of deadlines that begin at the beginning of their 12th grade year. So definitely keep in mind the time frames that we've kind of indicated here. And this is not an exhaustive list. We want to make sure that you're aware of how to initiate the process. And again, just to highlight that October 1st, the FAFSA opens. So every October, every October of every year, the FAFSA opens for the next academic year. So we want to make sure that they are filling these out timely, so that they are eligible for the full amount that they're entitled to. in regards to the FAFSA. So what are some of the needs in regards to as they transition to college? We want to make sure that we talk about housing, have a conversation as to whether they anticipate staying on campus, whether they anticipate getting their on their own apartment. In regards to housing on campus, a lot of housing applications begin in January and February of an academic year. So if they've started their senior year in August of 2019, January of 2020, they started the application process. So we want to make sure that we're aware of that time frame. Again, talking to them about money management. What do you want to be responsible for? I knew that it was important with my daughter that we helped her to understand that we will be responsible for the academic. We would assist you with your books, but the social dynamic, if you want to go with your friends or anything like that, that would be something she would be responsible for. So make sure that you're having that conversation in advance so that whenever they're getting their ETV and their Pell Grant refunds, if they're getting that, that we would, that they know what they're to expect, because we don't want our kids in college 2 months in and they don't have their books. Holidays, consider placements, consider where they're going to go for the holidays. If they're going to have, and this is primarily for our kids that are in foster care, when they're on break for spring break, where they're going to go. Some of the schools actually shut down their dorms for Christmas break or summer break. So we want to make sure that during those holidays that they have somewhere that they can go. And we want to make sure that we talk about this in advance rather than talking about this before a week before our the holiday comes around. Transportation. How are they going to navigate the city that they're in if it requires them to have transit? We want to make sure that we're purchasing them bus passes. If they're going to have a car, this is one of, I think, Ms. Daniels and I's pet peeves, that they have cars, but they can't financially maintain the insurance, or they're constantly getting tickets on campus that will inhibit them being able to continue on for the next semester. So make sure that you have that conversation in regards to transportation, because a lot of our foster youth have mental health issues. Again, the medical treatment dynamic. They need to be able to get to and from their appointments. Medical treatment in regards to our foster youth, make sure that they are connected to services within the community. We want to make sure that they are connected to a female doctor. We want to make sure that our boys and our girls are connected to a psychiatrist or a counselor, so that if they need medication or if they're having an issue or their transition to college has been a little bit more rough than they anticipated, that they're directly connected to services within that community and not having to travel 2 and 3 hours just to get their prescription filled. Again, mental health, emergency contacts, connecting them to a resource in this community. Contact the local DHR and to see if they have mentors and support systems that our kids can be in direct connection to through a church, through the Foster Parents Association, or even just people that have foster youth that are in college. They can also be a resource. College resources, that is kind of one area that we want to make sure that we stress for sure. Disability service, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth, but we want to make sure that our kids are aware of the resources that are offered on campus, because that's going to be instrumental to them being successful in school.
And one more thing about placements, because of what we know is going on now, I've received notification that a couple of schools are considering going to an online method after spring break because of the coronavirus. So that would be another good reason why to have a plan B for emergency situations like that. Right now, we don't have a complete list, but I've been notified that a couple of schools are discussing that. So if your foster youth or a child was in college, you would have to make plans to move them to another place or have a placement in place. And that's why we kind of stress placements, even for emergency situations like what's currently going on. Disability services. Colleges don't have the same legal obligations that some kids may have had in school that may have had IEPs, but they can receive services that includes a 504 plan. and that's the Rehabilitation Act. That's out of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. There are no IEPs again in college, but they provide plan services through those plans. Like if they have an identified issue where they can't go in the room and take a test with everyone else, they can be accommodated. If they can't, they can even have someone come in and write their notes for them if they can't write notes or their arm is messed up, or if they're disabled, they can have someone come in to take notes for them. The students, what they can do is go into the school and let them know their issues. And if the worker can't go, of course, me and Ms. Anderson will be glad to go in when they're registering for school, so we can get these services set up on the front end. And that way they can receive those services. And again, no one would know what's going on with them. I know a lot of our kids don't like that stigma, or I'm a foster child, or I have this going on. No one would know what's going on because it may be another student and they're doing the same thing. But they will receive those services just to help them to be successful while in college.
And the 504 plans, and the difference between that and IEP is IEP oftentimes addresses the behavioral needs of our youth, but the 504 plans strictly just address the academic needs of our kids. And that is going to be something that if you want to consider putting something like that in place, you need to connect with a counselor and inquire about that while they're in high school, because that transitional plan needs to be in place before they enter into college. And again, disability services is tremendous. This is another area that needs to be visited when they go through the orientation process, because it has to be a documented, I want to make sure that I stress that it needs to be a documented issue for our youth. And if they have anything like anxiety, test anxiety, mental health issues, and again, she stressed ADHD or anything like that, we want to make sure that we provide them with that documentation for sure. Continuing education and remedial classes. Continued education and remedial classes. We want to make sure that our kids that are not scoring high enough on the ACT, that they understand that remedial classes are offered, are required in areas that they scored low in. And these are courses that they take that they receive a grade, but they receive no type of college credit. So for example, one reason why this is a concern, if we have a kid that scores 14 on the ACT, but enters into a 4-year university, they're going to likely be required to take a full year of remedial courses. They're going to get a grade for those courses. However, those courses are not transferable, and those courses will not provide them with any college credit. So they will automatically begin with a 5-year academic, a 5-year degree. They're going to have to be in school for 5 years in order to obtain their degree. And so we want to make sure that we're discussing community colleges in instances where our kids are not scoring high enough on the ACT in order to get into those schools.
Another component of continuing education is the STAR program, and that's where the 2-year institutions link up with a 4-year school, and whatever they take those 2 years, like if they want to do pharmacy, they can link up locally here in Birmingham. Just State and Sanford have a STAR. It's almost like a STAR program, because what you take your 2 years will transition you into that pharmacy program. But it's other areas. But if you're interested in the STAR program, we just make sure that we connect with the counselor up front so that they can put you on the correct track, so that you're not taking classes that you don't need, that will not necessarily apply towards that degree and have you in that STAR program.
And this is a contract that needs to be done prior to a child enrolling in classes. This is a signed contract in order to prevent loss of credit hours. We don't need our kids going to school for 2 years at a 2-year college and then having to transfer it to a 4-year college and having to take a full 4 years. It wasn't designed to be that way. It's designed for them to be able to do 2 years at a community college and finish there and get an associate's, and then finish another 2 years at a university and finish with their bachelor's. So these are just a list of additional supports that we offer to our foster youth that are in care. Again, we provide tutoring. There is free tutoring on campus. So we definitely want to make sure that they take advantage of the free services, or those services that are directly offered through the school prior to us paying for that. That additional counseling, but that is something that is being offered. Our college youth that are in foster care are offered a college stipend up to $150. This is something that is determined within the ISP. We want to make sure the ISP team are taking into consideration the college stipend and allowance, money management activities, incentives, continual transitional services, in order to determine what is the best route, and again to note the expectations of our foster youth while they're away at college. And again, making sure that they're connected with those local resources so that they know what to do and how to manage their own needs.
Just some basic logistics, real quick. Complete the FAFSA by October 1 of the year of graduation. So if they are graduating in May, they should have completed their FAFSA October 1 for the upcoming academic year, which is the 2021 year. They can apply at www.fosteringhopeal.org, and they can apply for both the ETB and Fostering Hope on that. And then once we determine their eligibility, they will be notified whether they're going to get Foster Hope and ETB or just the ETB, either or. But if they complete that application, it details everything that they would need. The support will vary each semester. Again, that's just based on their need at the school, cost attendance. One student may get this amount, the other student may get this amount. Again, that's just based on the need of the school. And they will receive an award letter for ETB and Fostering Hope, and it'll tell how much they will be receiving for their academic school year.
Also, we want to make sure that our kids are very aware of, again, the minimum requirements for Fostering Hope, ETB, and also the federal Pell Grant. They are required to enroll at least 12 credit hours. A lot of our colleges are requiring them, in order to graduate within a 4-year, they're requesting for them to enroll in 15 credit hours, but all of our kids are not ready for that level of coursework. So we, at minimum, we want to make sure that they're taking the 12 credit hours to be considered a full-time. They must at least achieve a C for a credit-bearing class. That's a 2.0 on a GPA on a 4.0 scale, a pass for remedial courses, or some type of a certification that is being offered. We also want to highlight the fact that a lot of our schools are requiring that our kids provide some type of documentation that they were previously in foster care. If they're in foster care, this is something that foster care workers can provide our students. We want to make sure that upon entering school that they get that to them immediately, because that's something that the federal government is requiring in order to give them financial assistance. Initially, if they file taxes, we want to make sure that they maintain that documentation that they file taxes. And if they have not, they're required to obtain what they call a non-filing form from the federal IRS in order to prove that they did not claim, that they did not file taxes. And these are requirements that are inhibiting our kids from attending school and inhibiting their financial assistance as well. And we open the floor for any questions, any specific questions that you may have as relates to your child or foster child. Our contact information will be provided at the end of our slides, and feel free to get in touch with us. Again, Ms. Daniels covers the northern part of the state, and I cover this Montgomery to the southern part of the state, with some areas in regards to University of Alabama, Auburn, University of Montebello, and Gadsden.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions, and if you want to, you can advance to that slide so they can see your contact information as well. There you go. Perfect. And also, I put the fosteringhopeal.org down in the chat box, so that's a direct link for you as well. Okay, so we have a question here, and this is really more of a clarification question. Just want to make sure that we've got this clear. So I think I understand, but want to confirm, because I hope, well, actually, let me go back. Let's see. Okay. So if children enter kinship care before 14 years of age, they're not eligible for the state program, and in parentheses, and age 16 for the federal program. Okay, so in other words, it's only eligible for those who foster, adopt, or provide kinship care for those who are already turned 14 or 16 respectively. So this family is providing kinship care for a sibling set of 3, all under 14 at placement. So can you give a little clarity about that? Once again, about when it starts, or if they're there after, does it count? That kind of thing.
For fostering hope, you have to graduate foster care, graduate high school while in foster care, or obtain your GED while in foster care. You have to have been adopted after the age of 14 or participated in kinship guardianship after the age of 14 and up. With ETV, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had to have turned 18 while in foster care, or participated in, been adopted after the age of 16, or participated in kinship guardianship after the age of 16. So those are the two differences in program requirements.
Gotcha. So, and I had a comment here too, that so when custody is finalized is when it counts. So when the case is closed and DHR is no longer involved, or when custody is finalized is when the age, that's when it counts, right?
Correct.
When legal custody is transferred, then that is when it's, and we want to make sure that we point out, a lot of times with some of our kids, they could be leaving care in January, but have graduated high school in May. We want to make sure that you get in touch with a fostering hope mentor, so that we can discuss how we can ensure this kid is able to participate in the fostering hope. We've been able to work with our courts a lot of times to secure the placement and the transition, and also allow them to be able to participate in this great opportunity. So just get in touch with us if that's an issue.
Because we don't want them to be a 6-month era. You know, they've been in foster care this entire time, and they get to 18, or when they're going with a family, or going with a outside of foster care. It's not kinship guardian or anything. We want to make sure that they are able to be able to get those funds because they've earned them pretty much, you know, and that's like a $40,000 mistake to allow them to leave care prior to their graduation date. So we just want to make sure that, you know, we let you know, hey, let's just look at this and see what other options we have before we take that from them.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have another question here. If a parent starts the account set up with their email address, can it be switched to the child's email later?
That information can be updated. We actually encourage that you allow the kid to do it, because this is something that they're going to be responsible for, and we want to initiate that responsibility because, as my coworker mentioned, Miss Miller is going to require that they make a monthly contact with them, and their failure to make that monthly contact with her, or failure to make that semester contact with Miss Daniels or myself, can result in them also losing funding. So we want to make sure that we initiate that responsibility with them. But to answer the question, yes, that is something that can be later updated. But we encourage that the foster youth or the adopted youth, the recipient, is initiating that application, preferably.
Okay. Yeah, and we did have a comment here that it's still really confusing. So, and I would agree that it can be a little complicated. So what I'd like, direct questions, or if you've got, I know everybody has unique situations, and those are good conversations to have directly, because we ran into one this morning where there were questions, and there's a lot of clarity that needs to be given, and I think the conversation directly is going to be better for that. So we've got the question, there's a slide that talked about allowances. Question is that just for youth in care or for teens who were adopted out of foster care?
That is for foster youth. That is something that we work with our foster youth. Now, if they want to develop something for the youth, but that is going to come from like state funds. So that would be directly for our foster youth.
Gotcha. Yeah. So youth that are actively in care.
Correct.
Right.
Now, with the ETV program, that is something that is directly paid. Some of that is directly paid out to a foster youth. So for instance, if they fill out the application and they're entitled to say $1,000 for that semester, and it's up to $5,000. Let me stress that. But say they are entitled to $1,000 for that particular semester, they may receive 2 checks of $500. That funding is going to go directly to them as long as their financial obligation to the school is at 0. Any additional funding will go directly to that student. And so that's one of the reasons why we gave the list of what that money is to be spent on. Because again, if they are entitled to the full $2,500, and it's up to $5,000 a year, but they'll break that $5,000 up over 2 to 3 semesters. So we want to make sure that we are talking to them about the award letters that they will receive directly from Foster Care to Success, so that we know exactly how much they're getting, when they're getting, and you can help them to build up some type of a system in order to use that money appropriately.
Okay. So we have a question about college students under the age of 19. Can Fostering Hope or DHR co-sign for the student's rental housing? How does that work?
No, we do not co-sign for apartments.
Okay.
If you're still in foster care, you want to definitely talk with our ILP consultants as it relates to IOP housing or transitional living, or whether they anticipate staying in the dorms. Again, as of now, youth of the age of 18 can sign their own leases, but the state DHR workers and anyone in the state of Alabama cannot sign a lease for any of our foster youth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have someone here that says, I've already sent in an application for my son. Will I need to do another application? So how do they check on the status of that, or how do they know if they need to, do they need to do one regularly, or how does that work?
They should have created a portal when they actually applied for the Fostering Hope. So they would need to log in to see if there's any missing information that's being required of them. But they would have to go into that portal and see, because they would have had to create one when they initially applied for the application.
And if there's anything missing, they can definitely contact Ms. Myra Miller, and she should be able to give them specifics as to what's required. They also ensure that the recipient is checking their email regularly, because they will get status information to the email address that they put into the application.
Gotcha. And I'm going to put, there's an email too that I'm putting in the chat box, ilp@dhr.alabama.gov, and that's another route you can go to check out, or to inquiries about things related to IOP and housing and any of that kind of stuff. You can check in with them on that. Okay, so now, so this is about a college student who didn't get their tax refund or their return. Do you help students with that kind of stuff as well? This is needed for FAFSA. But what about just that whole process of taxes and navigating that and figuring out, you guys support in that regard?
We can definitely help to provide you with direction as to how to obtain the forms. We don't directly take the child to the IRS office. We can definitely assist when we're working with them to get the paperwork completed. We can definitely assist, but again, we want to make sure that we have someone that is directly connected to the youth that's going to ensure that that youth is following up with the IRS, because even with the IRS information that is required, it can take up to a month to get that actual form from them. So they're going to have to do some following up as it relates to that. But we don't directly take the child to the IRS office if that's the indication, but we will make sure that they have the best direction to obtain that information.
And then what's the question about they didn't get their refund?
Right, they never got their refund, and or there was questions about their tax return.
Okay, yeah, they would not. Now they would need to definitely either go to a local IRS building that is near them and sit down with an IRS agent just to kind of figure out what's going on with their refund, because Again, that's something with the IRS. It may have been an error on the tax return or something with the social security number, but they would need to go into an IRS building to handle that.
Gotcha. And can you just review real quick the when the applications need to be done and by when? There's a question here. Is it December of senior year? Question mark. Sooner? Question mark. So if you can kind of just give 1 or 2 sentences on that about when's the best time to do what.
Well, FAFSA will need to, and that's Pell Grant, that will need to be done October 1 of their senior year. That will cover for the upcoming school session, which would be like if they were a senior now, they should have done FAFSA October 1 for the 2021 academic school year. Foster and Hope and ETV, we started accepting applications in July, so they can go ahead and do that. The thing is, if they have not graduated, they won't be able to complete that question on there about graduation date. But if they notify us, or if the worker or whoever notifies me or Ms. Anderson, we can make sure that they are flagged so that their application isn't rejected, because it does require a graduation date.
Okay, gotcha. Is it too late for a senior now to complete the application for a Pell Grant?
Absolutely
No.
not. We actually, again, July is a set time that we desire to have our applications approved. Also, it gives us the ability to get in touch with the recipients in order to prepare them for what is to come. But they can go ahead and start filling out those applications now. Again, they would have to go back in and update when they graduate, and to make sure that any information that's missing is updated as it changes. But that is something that they can go ahead and start doing now.
Okay, well, good deal. Well, we're at 1 o'clock, and any final words as we sign off?
No, just if you have some youth that you're interested in seeing if they're eligible, contact me or Ms. Anderson. We can try to help you as much as possible with completing these applications and making sure that we assist you with getting them in school.
And we are connected to the foster youth up until they graduate. So even if they're not in care, we want to make sure that we maintain that contact. Please contact us so that we can help on the front end, so that our kids can be successful and that they're not set up for failure. College is very different than high school, and I don't think they understand that a lot of times. So we want to make sure that they are overly prepared in order to be successful.